Russian avant-garde. Contents: Art in the first years of the revolution. Schools and movements. Major artists. Notes. Bibliography. Index. Art in the first years of the revolution. Picasso, this is not the new art. At the beginning of the 20th century, Russian art found itself at the cutting edge of the world's artistic process. The decades dedicated to the renewal of pictorial art in France were condensed into approximately 15 years in Russia. The 1910s were marked by the growing influence of Cubism, which in turn modified the profile of figurative art itself. But around 1913, the breakup could already be felt, with new visual issues emerging and the scales tipping toward Russian avant-garde. In March 1914, Pavel Filonov declared that the center of gravity of art has been transferred to Russia. In 1912, Filonov criticized Picasso and Cuban futurism, saying that it leads to an impasse by its principles. This statement came at a time when this movement was triumphing in Russian exhibitions. The Russian The most sensitive Russian thinkers and painters saw in Cubism and in the creations of Picasso not so much the beginning of a new art, but the outcome of the ancient line in which egress was the origin. Nicolas Berdyaev. Picasso, this is not the new art. It is the conclusion of a bygone art. Mikhail Matushin. Thus, Picasso, decomposing reality through the new method of futurist fragmentation, follows the old photographic process of drawing from nature, only indicating the scheme of the movement of planes. Mikhail Le Dantu. It is profoundly incorrect to consider Picasso as a beginning. He is perhaps more of a conclusion. One would be wrong to follow this path. Nikolai Punin. One cannot see in Picasso that it is the drawing of new era. The French Cubists have stopped at the threshold of non-figuration. Their theorists wrote in 1912. Nevertheless, let's confess that the reminiscence of natural forms cannot be absolutely disowned, at least not for the moment. This Rubicon was then resolutely transgressed by Russian art in the work of Vasily Kandinsky and Mikhail Larionov, Pavel Filonov and Kazimir Malevich, Vladimir Tatlin and Mikhail Matushin. The consequences of this approach have been visible for a long time in Russian art, particularly in 1920s, although non-figurative painting only interested artists for a short period of time. Malevich presented for the first time 49 suprematist paintings at the exhibition that opened 15 December 1915 at the Gallery of Nadezhda Dobitschina on the Fields of Mars, Petrograd. The keys to suprematism, he wrote, lead me to a discovery that I am not yet aware of. My new painting does not belong exclusively to the earth. Earth is abandoned like a house eaten from within by woodworm, and there is actually in man, in his conscience, an aspiration for space, a desire to detach himself from earth. The spiritual universe. For most painters, despite the discoveries of Galileo, Copernicus and Giordano Bruno, the universe remained geocentric. From an emotional and practical point of view, that is to say, in their creativity. The imagination and structures in their paintings remain pledged to a terrestrial attraction. Perspective and horizon, notions of top and bottom, were for them undeniably obvious. Suprematism would disrupt all of this. In some way, Malevich was looking at Earth from space, or in another way, this his spiritual universe suggested to him this cosmic vision. Numerous Russian philosophers, poets, and painters at the beginning of the century returned to the Gnostic idea of primitive Christianity, which saw a typological identity between the spiritual world of man and the universe. The human skull, wrote Malevich, offers to the movement representations of the same infinity. It equals the universe, because all that man sees in the universe is there. Man had begun to feel that he was not only the son of earth, but also an integral part of the universe. The spiritual movement of man's inner world generates subjective forms of space and time. The contact of these forms with reality transforms this reality in the work of an artist into art. Therefore, a material object whose essence is in fact spiritual. In this way, the comprehensions of the spiritual world as a microscopic universe brings about a new cosmic understanding of the world. In the 20th century, this new comprehension led to the creation of radical changes in art. In the non-objective paintings of Malevich, whose rejection of terrestrial criteria of orientation, notions of top and bottom, right and left, no longer exists, because all orientations are independent, like the universe. This implies such a level of autonomy in the organization and structure of the work that the links between the orientations dictated by gravity are broken. There were the declining itinerants, the world of art, which had lost its guiding role, while the Jack of Diamonds group, also known as the of Diamonds, Knave of Diamonds, was quickly beginning to establish itself in the wake of Cézannism, suprematism, constructivism, and analytical art. To characterize the post-revolutionary avant-garde, we will only address the essential phenomena of art and the principal events in the world of painting, focusing less on the work of painters than on the process taking place in art at that time and on the issues raised by the great masters who represent art's summit at that time. Soon after the October Revolution, a group of young painters gathered at the Institute of Artistic Culture (ISO), the, the People's Commissariat of Enlightenment Narkompros, directed by Anatoly Lunacharsky. For them, the revolution signified the total and complete renewal of all life's establishments, a liberation from all that was antiquated, outdated, and unjust. Art, they thought, must play an essential role in this process of purification. The thunder of October cannons helped us become innovative, wrote Malevich during these days. We have come to clean the personality from academic accessories, to cauterize in the brain the mildew of the past, and to re-establish time, space, cadence, rhythm, and movement, the foundations of today. The young painters wanted to democrat, democratize art, make it unfold in the squares and streets, making it an efficient force of the revolutionary transformation of life. Let paintings' colors glow like sparkles in the squares and the streets, from house to house, praising, ennobling the eyes, the taste of the passers-by, wrote Vladimir Mayakovsky, Vasily Kamensky, and David Burluk. The first attempts to take art out into the streets were made in Moscow. On 15 March 1918, 3 paintings by David Burluk were hung from the windows of a building situated at the Kuznetsky Most Street and the Neglina alleyway. Interpreted as a new act of mischief by the Futurists, one could already see the near future in this action. In 1918, suprematism left the artists' studios and for the first time was brought into the streets and squares of Petrograd, translated in an original way in the decorative paintings of Ivan Punin, Ksenia Boguslavskaya, Vladimir Lebedev, Vladimir Kozlinsky, Natan Altman, and Pavel Manzurov. The panel painted by Kolinsky, destined for the Litani Bridge, was characterized by simple and lapidary forms, an image rich in meaning without unintentional or secondary lines. The artists knew how to construct an image with few pronounced mix of colors, the deep blue of Neva River, the dark silhouettes of war ships, the red flags of the demonstration that march along the quay. The watercolors of Kalinsky are not only decorative and joyful, but also characterized by an authentic monumentality. With the minimum use of forms and colors, the work acquires a maximum emotional charge. The sketches of Punin, Lebedev and Boguslavskaya reflect strong suprematist influences, and these initial experiences, however, the painters conceived the principles of suprematism in a somewhat simplistic way, seeing it from a decorative and color point of view only as a new procedure in plain organization. They did not grasp the intimate sense of this movement and its philosophical roots.